Hello and welcome to another episode of Cascadia Mountain Weather with Kyle McCrone and Wyatt Mullen.
Yeah, if you look at the satellite imagery from today, what you're going to notice is we're starting to see some actual smoke pickup from these fires out on the Olympic Peninsula, and also a little bit of smoke coming from these fires in the Cascades. This is actually one of the more active fire days we've seen in the last couple weeks since the rain fell. And that's because this weekend we're going to see some pretty warm temperatures, especially for the season. We're going to see some drying trend, and it'll be sunny for Friday, Saturday, and then it looks like Sunday, similar to last weekend, we might have the chance of showers, especially late in the day, Sunday into Monday. So that actually has led the National Weather Service just to put out this graphic highlighting elevated fire weather conditions. So not really a red flag warning, but just a warning that be aware of where those fires are and that we don't want anybody to get caught in them. If we look, you'll see there's these couple fires out on the Olympic Peninsula. And it's basically the low divide that we saw some of that smoke emerging from earlier, as well as going into the Cascades. We still have the Sourdough Fire, the Blue Lake Fire, and down here the Airplane Lake Fire, which are smoldering, and will continue to put out smoke this weekend.
Yeah, I was in the Airplane Lake area just a little bit to the southwest in the Monte Cristo Peaks last weekend. And what I noticed that was interesting is the smoke seemed to really settle and be pretty thick in the valleys around Darrington and North Fork of the Sauk in the morning. But then as the temperatures warmed up, the smoke started to mix out, and eventually we got better views of Glacier Peak. But it definitely surprised me. The models didn't seem to pick up on how bad the smoke would be in the morning. So I think that this weekend we need to still pay pretty specific attention to the wind direction and the localized terrain around these fires.
Yeah, so if we look at the wind direction, so this is going forward through the weekend. This is for just south of Glacier Peak. You'll see that we have pretty light winds. They'll pick up a little bit later in the afternoon. And they're going to be kind of swirling. So we'll have westerly, we'll have northwesterly getting towards Monday. In the day Saturday, you get southwesterly. So it's mostly going to be westerly winds. So that means that generally, if you're on that west side of the fire, you're probably going to be better off. But as Kyle was mentioning, if you look at kind of the model forecast for Saturday, this is the HRR, this is for kind of smoke. You'll notice it's really not picking up on these fires. You can see the Airplane Lake fires just barely getting picked up, and some in the Olympic Peninsula as well. But I'm not impressed by how well it's been doing the last couple of days. So don't take this model as gospel moving or making your weekend plans.
Definitely.
In terms of just a quick rundown of the weather, what you'll see is that we have this ridge of high pressure building over us currently, and that's going to lead to temperatures pretty warm for this time of year, similar to last weekend, but once again 80s in the lowlands, 70s and 60s in the mountains. As we get further into the weekend, this is getting into the day Sunday, we're going to see this trough moving into the area, and that's going to bring that increased chance of clouds and showers, which I mentioned, especially, like I said, late in the day Sunday and into Monday. You'll see this is the National Weather Service forecast for Snoqualmie Pass, just past at about 5,000 feet. Once again, you'll see that temperature's pretty pleasant, honestly, for September. In the 70s, lows, really not that cold. Obviously, if you're in the valleys, it will be a little bit colder. If you're higher up, generally in the evening or at night, it actually stays a little bit warmer, which is a little bit counterintuitive. And then you see that the increasing chance of showers as you move, especially into Sunday night. If we look at the forecast, we'll see these clouds. We'll see a band of clouds move through Saturday night, but mostly sunny for Saturday. Sunday will start sunny, and then the clouds will pick up. And as we get into Monday morning, the chance for precipitation will definitely increase. If we look here, you can see that this is the accumulated rainfall by Sunday evening, so not much in the North Cascades, but by Monday morning, a couple showers, maybe a couple tenths of an inch. So if you're staying out Sunday night, you might get a little bit wet. So this is a photo I took this past weekend out in kind of the Mount Baker area where the fall colors were really popping. What have you noticed about the fall colors, Kyle?
They seem to be coming a little bit early this year. I've been in a few places on the west side of the Cascades, not just Mountain Baker, but all up and down the Cascades. And on solar aspects, so especially southern, maybe west and east also, the reds and the yellows at a high elevation above about 5,000 feet have been spectacular already. It seems like north aspects are taking a little bit longer. If you're wondering about larches, those are just barely getting started, and those usually peak more like at the beginning of October. Something I also noticed last weekend is that the direction you're moving really makes a big difference. Typically, you think of photography as being better not into the glare of the midday sun, but these reds are definitely much more vibrant if you're heading into the sun. And if you look away from the sun, they look kind of dull. So maybe if you're planning a hike or looking to do a loop, think about that direction that you're moving so they can actually be moving into the sun. The colors will look a lot better.
Yeah, it was remarkable last week and how much it changed just based on that direction, exactly like you were mentioning. So that kind of leads us into more of our longer term forecast. So we looked at this last week, and this shows basically the probability of, in this middle section, we see the probability of precipitation as the days progress. And we'll see that early next week, we have a slight chance for precipitation on kind of Monday and Wednesday at Snoqualmie Pass. But especially as we get later into the week and those uncertainties increase, but we see that we are going to start moving kind of into that more fall-like pattern. If we look at the national forecast for kind of probabilities of what temperatures will look like, it does look like we're going to have like slightly below normal or near normal temperatures in that 8 to 14 day time frame. But if we go to precipitation, we do see that there is a higher likelihood of seeing a little bit more rain than usual, especially as we get into kind of the final weeks of September, which is about what we would expect with climatology.
Well, thank you for the weather forecast, Wyatt. And thank you to the listeners for listening to another episode of Cascadia Mountain Weather. We hope you have a great weekend.